The man was shaken when he said it. Not from fear of the jungle, not from the humidity, from what he believed was under the ground. It was 1971 in the mountains of northern Philippines. A local mechanic named Rogelio was guiding a small group through a narrow path no map showed. He kept looking over his shoulder like someone might be following. He said his uncle had been forced during the war to help dig tunnels for Japanese soldiers. Deep tunnels, sealed tunnels, tunnels filled with boxes no one was allowed to open. The foreigners walking behind him did not look like treasure hunters. No metal detectors, no excited chatter, just quiet men in plain clothes, boots too clean for villagers, eyes scanning everything. One carried a leather case that never left his hand. They had come because of a rumor that refused to die. Gold. Before we go deeper, if you like real stories where history, power, and hidden money collide, subscribe to Fiscora Empire, because some of the biggest forces shaping the world today started as secrets no one believed. Back in 1945, when Japan knew it was losing World War II, troops across Asia were retreating. But something strange happened in the Philippines. Instead of shipping treasure back home, units moved inland, into mountains, into caves, into places no army needed to win a battle. According to Rogelio's uncle, prisoners were forced to dig day and night. When chambers were finished, crates were brought in under heavy guard. Then the workers were sealed inside or executed. No witnesses, no maps, just silence. The Japanese general connected to these operations had a name that still echoes today, Yamashita. After the war, official records said nothing about massive hidden treasure. The focus moved to rebuilding. New governments, new alliances, but in the villages, stories survived. Old men spoke of trucks at night, of explosions, sealing tunnels, of soldiers who knew they were burying more than weapons. Most people laughed it off. Until people started getting rich, in the 1960s, certain local figures suddenly had money that didn't match their past. Construction projects, political campaigns, foreign connections. No clear source. And every time someone dug too deep into the mountains, something strange happened. Equipment vanished. Permits were denied. Armed men appeared from nowhere. That is when outsiders began paying attention. The group behind Rogelio was not random. They had been sent quietly after a former Japanese officer, dying in Tokyo, spoke about war gold left in the islands. His testimony never reached newspapers. It went somewhere else, to offices where information does not become public. Now they were here, in the jungle. Following a man whose only proof was a family story, Rogelio stopped at a rock face, half covered by vines. He said his uncle described a waterfall that once flowed here, now dry. He pointed to a section of stone that looked different, too flat, too smooth. One of the foreigners touched it, then stepped back. His face changed, not excitement, recognition, like he had seen this before. They unpacked tools, quietly, no lights, no noise that would carry. Because if treasure was real, they were not the only ones who might be looking. Hours passed, sweat, silence. Then metal hit something hollow. Everyone froze, not because they found gold, because if this tunnel existed, it meant the story was true. And if the story was true, the question was no longer about treasure hunters. It was about who already knew. Because tunnels like this do not stay secret by accident. Not for 25 years. Not in a region watched closely by global powers during the Cold War. If gold was here, someone powerful had reasons to keep it buried or already moved. The man with the leather case stepped forward and ordered them to stop digging. Not yet, he said. They had to be sure no one else was watching. Rogelio looked confused. This was supposed to be about finding something. Instead, these men seemed worried about being seen. That night, as they camped without a fire, Rogelio overheard two of them arguing in English. He caught only a few words. Not the first sight, already accessed. Above our level, Rogelio realized something terrifying. This was bigger than hidden gold, much bigger. If others had found tunnels before, where did that gold go? And who was using it? Rogelio barely slept. Every sound in the jungle felt like someone approaching. Every snapped twig sounded like boots. The men who hired him took turns on watch, but not like tourists afraid of animals. They watched the path, the ridges, the sky, like they expected people, not predators. At dawn, the man with the leather case, the one the others listened to, called Rogelio aside. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He asked again about the uncle. Names, dates, exact words he used when he described the tunnel. Regilio repeated what he knew. Forced labor, Japanese officers, sealed chambers. Then he said something he hadn't mentioned before. His uncle claimed American soldiers came to the area after the war, not regular troops, small groups. They asked about caves, about explosions heard in 1945. Then they left. No digging, no announcements, just questions. The man with the case stopped writing. How many? He asked. Few, Regilio said, but they came more than once. That changed everything. The team returned to the rock face, but they didn't start digging again. Instead, they spread out, scanning the ground, looking for signs that someone else had been there. Old tool marks, broken vegetation, disturbed soil, and they found it. A patch of earth that didn't match the surrounding jungle. To even too flat, like something heavy had rested there years ago. Machinery, maybe? Or crates stacked before transport. This site wasn't untouched. Someone had already opened this tunnel. But if the gold had been removed decades earlier, why was the entrance resealed? Why leave the legend alive? The answer began forming in the mind of the man with the case, and it wasn't about treasure, it was about control. Before he could explain, a distant engine sound rolled through the valley. Not a jeep, too heavy. Everyone froze. Through the trees, a convoy appeared on a dirt road that didn't exist on Regilio's map. Military trucks, no visible markings. They stopped half a kilometer away. The team leader whispered one word: pack. No panic, no rush, just speed and silence. Within minutes, the tools were gone. The rock face looked untouched again. Regilio's heart pounded. Who are they? No one answered. They retreated deeper into the jungle, moving fast but carefully. After an hour, they reached a hidden clearing where a small helicopter waited. No logos, no numbers. As they lifted off, Regilio looked down at the mountains. He thought treasure hunters chased gold, but these men were running from attention. Back at a safe house in Manila, the mood shifted. Maps covered the walls, old military photos, declassified Japanese transport routes, interrogation transcripts. The tunnel Regilio showed them was marked with a red X next to 3 others, all labeled the same way. Recovered 1945 to 1952, limited documentation. Regilio stared. Recovered by who? The leader finally spoke. That's the problem. The files don't say. He explained that after World War II. Special intelligence units operated across Asia. Their job was to secure assets before they could, fund future conflicts, gold, currency, strategic materials. Most of it was logged, accounted for, but some operations were different. Off the books, no public records, no treasury entries, just references buried in classified archives, sites accessed, cargo moved, destinations unknown. Black recovery, one of the men muttered. Regilio didn't understand the term, but he understood the fear in the room. If gold had been quietly extracted, it meant someone had access to enormous, untraceable wealth. Wealth that never appeared in national budgets. Wealth that could fund operations no government would admit to. And if that system started in the shadows of World War II, it might still exist. The leader pointed to another location on the map, a site deeper in the mountains, one that didn't have the recovered note. Either this one was missed, he said, or it's being protected. Regilio felt the weight of the decision before they even asked. Would he guide them again? Because if the first site proved the legend was real, the next one might prove who controls it. The second site took 2 days to reach. No roads, no villages, just steep ridges and thick jungle that swallowed sound. The team moved slower this time, more cautious. They knew now this was not a treasure hunt. It was stepping into someone else's secret. When they reached the location, Regilio's stomach tightened. There were no fresh tracks, no vehicles, no guards, but there were signs. Old blast marks in the rock, a collapsed slope that didn't look natural, and something else, a metal rod sticking out of the earth, almost hidden by roots. The leader knelt, brushed dirt away. It was a survey marker, military grade, faded, but still there. This place had been mapped. They began digging carefully, avoiding noise. After hours, a cavity opened. Cool air flowed out. A hollow space beneath the mountain. The tunnel. Inside, the air was stale but dry. Reinforced beams, rails on the floor for carts. This was not improvised, it was engineered. Then they reached the chamber. Crates were still there, stacked, sealed. The men didn't cheer, they stared, because this meant something terrifying. Not all sites had been emptied. The leader opened one crate. Inside were gold bars wrapped in old military cloth, heavy, real, silent. Rogelio felt dizzy. He had expected emptiness, not proof. Then the leader did something strange. He closed the crate. "We leave," he said. Rogelio couldn't believe it. "But this isn't lost treasure," the leader said quietly. "This is a system." He explained what the others had begun to understand. If some sites were emptied and others left untouched, it meant the gold was not simply taken, it was managed, controlled, accessed when needed, a reserve, not owned by a country, not listed anywhere. A hidden pool of power. Suddenly the question changed. This gold wasn't buried to be forgotten. It was buried to be used, carefully, quietly, only when necessary. To fund things governments couldn't admit, operations without approval. Political shifts without fingerprints. The leader looked at Rogelio. "Once we report this, the site disappears. Officially, it never existed." Rogelio felt fear rise in his chest. Who decides that? The leader didn't answer directly. People above governments. On the flight back, Rogelio watched the jungle fade beneath the clouds. He had grown up hearing treasure stories. Now he understood why no one found it, because it was never lost. It was hidden inside the world's power structure. And that's the shift this story makes. Yamashita's gold may not be a pirate legend. It may be an early example of something that defines modern power. Off-the-books wealth. Money that doesn't belong to voters. Money that doesn't appear in budgets. Money that funds influence, intelligence, regime change, and silent leverage. Today, the gold may not sit in caves. It may move through offshore networks, shell companies, and black budgets. But the principle is the same. Hidden resources create hidden power, and hidden power shapes visible history. That is why governments deny the story. Not because it's impossible, but because if people understood that massive wealth can exist outside public control, they would start asking different questions. Who funds covert actions today? Who benefits when governments change suddenly? Who holds reserves we never see? Rogelio never spoke publicly. The team never returned. The site was sealed again, but one truth stayed with him. History is not only written by winners, it is financed by shadows. If this story changed how you see power and money, share your thoughts below, treasure myth or hidden system. And share this with someone who thinks history is just dates and battles. Stay with Fiscora Empire. We follow the money behind history.